Hi. I'm getting my person to join. Hi.
Hi.
Both have audio?
I think so.
Yay. I've actually never done this before.
That's exciting. That is exciting. I have done it, but not in a long time. Instagram is not my place of choice just because my phone has never worked well. Like,
Catchy reception there sometimes. You did one with, I think, Beth Kirby.
I did. Yes. A few, actually. 2 or 3.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Evening for you. You're probably drinking wine. I grabbed a mimosa, which may or may not just be mostly sparkling wine.
It is still a pandemic.
I mean, so today you had a big introduction to the no longer courageous, now okay, perfect.
It's true. Let me see if I can get the light a little better. The light is so weird in this kitchen always, unless I have professional lighting. It's just like...
Riley, message if you see this, but I don't know if it automatically records or if I have to record it, Riley.
It doesn't really record. You can save it as a story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So. She knows. I saw her join, so she knows all things. But so you're in the south of France. Is it complete lockdown right now?
So, not really. And yes. So we're in confinement part 2, right? Confinement part 2 looks like taking your kid to school and then getting home, going to the grocery store and then being done. So it's different. It doesn't feel as scary as last time, but the really good news is that like the cases are dropping really rapidly. It shows that confinement works.
Right. Is France pretty good at wearing masks and everything?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. That's nice. And you have access to groceries, obviously, because you're still teaching classes.
I do. Yeah, the markets are still open. Like our weekly market is just food. All of the normal vendors I mean the food vendors are the normal vendors, but also like it has all the clothes and all of that, and that's gone right now. But it's actually better. It's quiet.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because there's not 10,000 people coming. So
really cute little town just north of, what are you, about an hour and a half north of Cannes?
Not even 30 minutes.
Oh.
Like we're technically 7 miles away, but traffic makes it 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So we're much closer than you would think. Because of the way the roads are placed and traffic, it feels far sometimes. But yeah. Well, I'm excited to be on your channel talking about food and cooking and the Courageous Cooking School, which is still what it's technically called, but we're working on that. It was really fun to be here. Let's talk about you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's talk about you, and then we can talk about me.
Okay.
So, you are a designer by trade.
So I'm trained in architecture, which is what I've been doing for the last billion years because I'm really old. And I've been doing that mostly from home since kid number 4 came along. So then it's just not as creative as people think, really. Mm. Also, I found with all kids at home, especially when all the girls are kind of grown and moved on now, but I was just doing a lot of cooking, and mostly because I hate dishes. I hate dishes. The husband all the dishes. I want to touch a dish as long as I live. So I ended up doing all the cooking, and before we got married, I was eating out probably like five days a week, 3 meals a day at least. And I was eating in some of the good places, so I was going broke, but I was also eating a lot of the good food. Then when we got married and had a mortgage, I had to either give up the good food or learn how to cook it. So
I love that.
I learned how to cook food. Not always quality, but I mean, last night we're sitting here and I just pulled out of the freezer. It was on my Instagram, the lobster ravioli I made. And it's like, well, tonight we're having lobster ravioli with one of the cabbage dishes from the morning. And Taylor's like, of course, we're just sitting here on a Sunday night just having lobster ravioli. Who doesn't do that? I was like, yeah, we eat like that a lot now because that's just how I prefer to eat. But I still go out for the odd Big Mac. But that's how I like to eat. And then you guys came along early in quarantine. You guys switched over to video really early, right? When was that?
Oh my gosh. So we switched to video. We started doing online things in March, in like kind of little bits and bobs, and then heavily in April. And that's when, did you find me before that? Or did you find me like literally when we made the switch?
I think I found you before because next year for my big birthday, I was planning on doing a big trip to the south of France. Well, I still am hoping, I don't know, for like 6 weeks. And so I was going to spend a week or two of that just by myself, bumming around the south of France because I've been many times. I feel comfortable doing it. And that was part of my plan, was to come visit you guys for a week. So I was already kind of checking you guys out. And then everything kind of crashed and hit. And then you said, hey, we're going to start online. I'm like, sign me up. I was probably one of the first or second people to sign up and say, basically, I'm just going to be a lifer here because this sounds really cool. And loving that you guys kind of focus on the recipe-free approach, where you're just kind of playing with flavors and seeing where things go. What do you have on hand? You know, what ingredients are fresh and in season, and then you can just kind of play with it. What are your favorite? Like, I'll put lemon and garlic in everything. So that's always on my, like, I don't know, quick go-tos. I need to expand on that a lot, but it really fit in for sure. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you found us so early because I think what's been so interesting about the pandemic for me is someone in an industry that is, no matter how well you're doing in an industry like mine online, a huge part of your bread and butter is still going to be in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a cooking school, people long for in-person experiences. I don't really think it's about the learning of cooking because hello Food Network, right? Hello YouTube. There's so much desire to learn to cook, but there's something about watching someone touch it through a screen and watching someone touch it in person and be able to smell it and see what's happening that gets lost in translation online, which admittedly we still struggle with that frequently, about like what's getting lost in how we teach cooking online. But because you can't be in person, people are like, okay, how can we start learning? And especially because everybody needs to cook now.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you can still order in, but I'm sorry, I love ordering in, but going to a restaurant is my happy place. Like, and there's something about the flavors of it being cooked fresh versus delivered to your door that is vastly different. And I think that
having to cook it yourself for one night of the whatever, so nice to have. We went out a few nights ago on a date night, and I'd forgotten what eating out it even felt like. Because we have eaten out here and there, but not nicely, like quick and dirty places. Not the other head out for a decent meal, and it was such a treat.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. I love that.
That confit.
We had duck confit.
Which I make all the time, but it's never quite as good as you have it in France. And then last night I was like, oh, but this is pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It is. So you're currently renovating your kitchen.
We started demolishing things yesterday. Yep. I'm paying for my appliances this week, and we're just...
Did you pick a stove?
I did. I picked a stove. Finally.
For those of you watching live, I have been sitting with Alison on weekly live since April.
Yep.
And the big thing was, what stove? What stove? So what did you decide?
So I started with the Lacanche, and then I got really crazy about how many BTUs, and does it have a proofing oven, and can it do everything I need it to do? Because I can't get like a nice big 48-inch, which I would love to do. So my kitchen's not that big, but I did finally decide on the caliber. So It's going on order this week. They're sending me the final custom. It's all their stoves are custom, and the highest burner. So Heston actually had one higher burner at 30,000 BTU in the 30, but I don't think it was on the 36-inch stove, and that's all I could fit. So Caliber has a 25,000 BTU French top, and I'm so excited about the French top. I don't know why. I'm so
You mean
excited.
like mine, the black?
Yeah.
The black top? Yeah.
And then a burner underneath, and then you can just kind of move. If you're doing a sauce, you just move it around on how warm you want to keep your sauce. Like, I'm really excited about. And then because in all the kitchens I've designed over the last like 20 years, my counters and my cabinets are all 30 inches deep, not 24, which can be complicated, but I love the extra counter space, and the Caliber fits perfectly. So
Where's the Caliber from?
Huntington Beach, California.
Oh, so it is that company, the one that's like newish. They've been producing stoves for like 10 years, maybe?
Well, the two guys in the industry for probably 40 years.
Right.
I don't remember where else they came from, but they all branched down about these stoves, and now they do a lot of outdoor kind of barbecue stuff too, but like really, really high end. And then they do the stove. But it's weird. I was thinking today, it's like this is going to cost me as much as a small car, and I didn't get to test drive it. Like, I would like to maybe have cooked on it once, even if I'm just cooking an egg or something, like just to see if I like how the buttons feel, or how the brake lights, or like stuff like that. And it suddenly occurred to me that like you should be able to test drive a stove. So no.
Yeah, I didn't get to test drive the LaConch either.
No, you used it before? No. Oh, yeah.
No.
Isn't that weird? Like, you're investing, like your stove is an investment if you really cook.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yeah.
Go with it. Hopefully it's amazing. I'm very excited, but it's not going to be here till March. So we're just going to slowly do everything around the stove and all the cabinets and everything else. And then when the stove comes, it'll be like the last boom. I hope.
Nice.
Finally. Yeah, quarantine, because when you guys first started, you were doing like up to 5 classes a week or something like that. I think you were building content, and I like to cook with you because, like you say, it's the closest thing to being in the space. And if you're commenting on something, I'm processing that information right in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and even though it's 9 a.m. for me here, I'm making full dinners at night. So when my kids were all in, and there's like 8 of us sitting here, and I'm doubling and tripling your recipes, it's like, okay, everybody, breakfast. And it's like a full dinner meal or breakfast like 5 times a week. And they're like, seriously, we can't eat this much food. I was like, well, but I had to cook it, so we're gonna eat it for breakfast.
So talk to me about what sort of food content, like, get your motor running, other than ours, obviously. But like, what sort of things are you sick of, and what are you excited about right now?
I've been doing also a lot of the masterclass. It's very specific. There's not a lot of like free flow in that, which is why I really like being on your website. But I've been learning some things from there. I really just like I like taking something, for example, like pasta sauce, or like a simple like oil, vinegar, shallot kind of sauce, not one of the goopy ones, like a nice tomato sauce. And then just trying to work it a bunch of different ways and figure it out, and figure out like, when do you add the acids? When do you add the salts? When do you add this? But then I can be free to play with which acid I add, or which salt, or which fat, right? And I like to be able to play like that, but still have some kind of a outline, I guess, of like, it's important you have an acid, and this is when you should add it, and this is why you should add it, which I think is why when I'm looking at recipes, I mostly head to Serious Eats, because they analyze stuff like they were very similar to Julia Child, I think, where she just cooked through a recipe 3 billion times until she found the exact way that it worked. She's done all that work. I don't need to do it. I just need to read her book and say, that's how I make that. Like souffle, talked about souffles yesterday. If I need to make a souffle or something complicated, and I need the parameters of how it works, it's always Julia Child or Serious Eats, like every time. Because then framework. And then like with you guys, I'm getting a lot of the ideas and how to improvise and how to work through your little triangle you had yesterday. And so I like that. I like having a framework, but then I like being able to do whatever I want with that framework. Does that make
That
sense?
makes perfect sense. Absolutely. No, I feel the same way. And it's interesting because I was talking to Kendall yesterday. For those of you who are watching, Kendall is one of my best friends from culinary school. We went to the Cordon Bleu together, and she's worked in, gosh, Michelin restaurants for the past 3 years, and she's coming on board to do some work with us. And she was talking about how, like, well, I get the framework, but, and I was like, yeah, but Kendall, you've been working in Michelin starred restaurants for 3 years. Like, this is actually a really helpful way of looking at cooking.
Yeah.
And treating cooking like something that is deeper than just what I think tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole point is like, she's like, well, I've graduated from the framework. Of course you have. Like, and the framework is all about how to build dishes that are delicious. It's not the end game of cooking. It's just like, how do we explain cooking from the hip? Because what I'm noticing is all these people are like, oh, just cook things.
Which, if you have enough experience like Kendall or like you or I, then you can sometimes just cook things. It's like, you know, I don't know. Some people can do that because they've graduated at that point. But I find like, for me, I still feel like I'm learning. I was talking to my son the other day, who's a bit of a foodie. And I said, I still feel like I've gotten nowhere because I still have this much to learn and I've learned this much. But as long as I keep learning frameworks, then I can branch off as much as I want. So I think it's like mastering those frameworks. But then I have to figure out what they are first. You to teach me. I just have to wait for you to teach me them and then I will do them.
Well, we're working on it. We keep getting better. And that's one of the things that's been so interesting about having the time and space because of COVID is now we've been able to iterate because we haven't had the time.
Yeah. How many in-persons were you doing there a year before?
25 weeks a year.
Oh, yeah. So it's like half the year. And then the other half, you're probably just cleaning up after the last people. Restocking.
Well, so 25 weeks a year was the cooking school, and 12 weeks a year was high season rental, which leaves, you know, about a month and a half to 2 months, sometimes 3, depending on the year. But the longest the house has ever been empty is COVID. Like, usually it was a month because we had people in the winter too who would book. And so we were constantly just running, which has been fine, but now it's given us a lot of time to be introspective about what cooking actually means to us and trying to build something that's very intentional instead of just kind of like what the public wants. And I think that a lot of us follow each other in the food world because we're looking for people who are doing things differently. And we were just in the place where we wanted to do something totally differently than people had been doing it, which is why I started that online school and the one that we still have. I really wanted a community of people rather than one-off classes.
Yeah.
And I wanted a community rather than, I could have filmed a bunch of things and released it for free, like a lot of people did.
Getting to get people going. I still watch book lives.
Yeah. Like, what do we need to do to create a virtual community rather than virtual classes? And I think it's hard. I think it's much easier to teach one-off classes or to do a thing and get a lot of followers and be really excited about it. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking to build is like long-term community, and that's slow. Like food. Slow food is slow. Community is slow. Communities don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
They take time.
Yeah. Well, I'm really enjoying the app that you guys are developing or have developed, and like actually getting to know some people on it and like saying hi. And I don't think there's too many Canadians yet, so I have to work on that. We have to get more Canadians. I think my closest person is Seattle. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Probably my closest person.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been really good. And then you sent out a video earlier of like all the things that you're planning for the full like curriculum. And I just got so excited because then it's basically like an entire culinary education that
That's
I don't
actually the goal.
years
The
out of
goal is that you do not have to go to culinary school.
because I can't. I can't take 2 years off to go to culinary school. So I'm excited to like eventually in the next few years, not all in 1 month, next few years to get through all that exciting, fun curriculum.
Right, and that was one of the things that Kendall and I really started talking about. She came and visited right after the first lockdown, after my husband and I created the first round of the curriculum for the online school, because my husband has a degree, a master's degree in online curriculum development. And Kendall and I went to the Cordon Bleu. We had fine experiences. I'm not going to say anything bad publicly about them. But what I will say is that it left a lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, what was not covered in the culinary education that we went through and the culinary education that my friends have gone through was the capacity to do things on your own. It was very 100% recipe based still. And spending money for that on recipes just feels like a waste of cash when now there's just so much content that's recipe based. But actually understanding the science of flavors and without even getting heady about the science, just like doing a science experiment the way a kindergartner puts baking soda and vinegar together and it goes kaboom.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that cooking is very much like that. I do not need to know why baking soda and vinegar go kaboom and explode like a volcano, but knowing it does gives me information.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're really playing with in the online cooking school is like, our goal is to not replace professional culinary school, but one of the things we're working on is actually like, there's so many people who think they want to go to culinary school, and we hope to be the kind of try us out first. And we're looking at offering scholarships to people from lower income communities once we actually are making money again, right? Where we can offer people space to be in the online cooking school for 6 months or a year, give them all of the accoutrement they need, the spices, the pans, what have you, because a shitty stove will work, right? Like you just need to have heat. And then giving people the space to be like, is this actually what I want to do? Or do I just need the skills so they can go work in a kitchen? So we're kind of hoping to kind of bridge that gap over time.
I like that.
There needs to be something else. And a free education doesn't have accountability. It doesn't have community. Sure, you can ask questions and people respond, but it's not the same thing.
An interesting conversation talking to my son about potentially going to culinary school and actually going to is it the California Culinary Institute, Academy, whatever? Culinary one?
Culinary Institute of America.
Was actually the time that I was first introduced to kind of recipe-free cooking because my brother had moved in and he could just pull things out of my fridge. I wasn't cooking yet. I was still burning water, and my grandfather bought me a fire extinguisher because I was that bad in the kitchen. And my brother moved in and he could go into my fridge and just pull the most random stuff that I don't even know what was in there, and he could just make food. And I couldn't even get over it. Like, it just blew my mind. And he was thinking about either going into culinary school or computers or whatever. So we drove down to San Francisco and we stayed in like, I don't know, we were really young. We stayed in like a Motel 6 or something. And we go to the guy at the front desk and we're like, so which parts of, like, we're new here, what parts of San Francisco should we probably avoid? And he just took a big Sharpie and circled like all of San Francisco. I said, don't go here. It's dangerous. And we're like, well, the Culinary Institute was right in the middle. So we're like, well, this is why we're here. We're going. So we finally get around that area. And this is back in the day, still like paper maps and stuff like that. And we get around the area that we think the culinary school is at. And we get out of our car and like tourists, we're reading our paper map and stuff. And this guy with a hoodie down just kind of brushes past us and says, "You don't belong here," and just kept walking. And we're like, "Oh crap, we're in one of those areas, we better go." And my brother never went into food. He went into computers after that. We never went to the school. And when we saw it, we kind of saw it down the street, and it had all these black iron gates like guarding it and stuff. And we're like, no. And now he owns a 10-acre farm.
So he went back.
He went back eventually.
Food has a way of chasing you. And by the way, I want to acknowledge the comment from Angelique saying, "I so love your organic and simple approach to learning to cook versus recipe-based training." So thank you. But yeah, I think that we all end up back in food. I didn't go into food originally. I caught a lot of flack for this when I bought this house, that I wasn't already in food professionally. But I grew up as someone who was in food.
Right.
And I'm not saying high-end food. My father was a fast food guy. I don't mean like he ate it per se. It's that he was in corporate fast food and he knew the difficulties. He was obsessed with restaurants. He was obsessed with food and obsessed with wine, but he knew the difficulties that faced restaurants long before COVID, right? Like the margins are small. Even in a corporate restaurant, the margins are small and they are bigger. They're better than a small high-end restaurant. And of course, there are examples that transcend that and where you can make a lot of money, but like they're few and far between in the industry. So he told me not to go into it. And so I evaded it and evaded it and evaded it. And buying this house was so I could stop being in front of a computer all the time and, you know, introduce people to food, because when I wasn't in front of the computer all the time as a consultant, I was cooking. And so that's why I bought the house. And now it's ironic that I'm back in front of a computer all. At least I'm teaching cooking though, in front of the computer primarily.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, if you just keep following your passions, this is what I'm telling my younger kids now, you'll end up with this magical place that only you belong, because you started in computers and now you're in farming. How do you make those two things go together? And most people don't have those two things. Or like my older son, who's really into finance and running businesses and stuff like that. And I said, how much do restaurants need that help, especially small restaurants? Because like architects, they're in it because they're passionate about being creative, not because they know how to run a business. So it's like that magical person that takes your love of politics, your love of finance, and your love of food, and has that magical little place that only you belong and only you have those skills. Or like me, I started in architecture and now I'm going to focus on kitchen design, because food has just kind of brought me into this space of like sharing like notes about gathering and designing kitchens that actually work for cooks, that aren't just pretty kitchens, but like actually function and work for people that seriously cook. And that's not a lot of stuff that's out there right now. Or create entertain better. It just kind of full circle eventually, and you scoop all these skills up from everything you've done, and then at some point it just magically all ties a bow on it. You hope.
I love that. I love that shift. It's exciting. Well, we're reaching almost a half hour, so I think we can start to say sayonara. But if you want to find us together on Sundays, lepeetch.com, there's a little at the top, a link that'll take you to the online school. If you want to watch, those of you who came through me and want to watch Alison redo her kitchen, follow her, like her stuff, say hi. And if you have any questions about the cooking school, ask Alison or me, depending on who you know better or need more information from. I'm looking forward to seeing your final kitchen.
Website to your school. I think that's what I'm going to be doing. Because there's so much like photograph content on my site that's actually from cooking with you anyways. So we're going to have to make a page on, it's AlisonKentHomeKitchen.com, and we'll link it to being courageous.
It sounds good. Well, it's good to see your face out of the context of the weekly cooking school.
Well, you should get me to bed and still having my coffee and not quite awake yet.
It's true. But you look great always. So.
Thank you for doing this with me. That was fun.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can like save it to something at the end, but figure this whole live thing out. But
And maybe we'll cook together on a Facebook Live soon.
we should. That'd be fun. I like it.
Oh, I have an idea.
Oh.
I have an idea that we take something we did from a live.
Oh. And each riff on it?
Uh-huh.
I like that. That'd be fun. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, happy Monday and have a really good week there in France. We're in lockdown here, so, and I struggle with a mask because I'm claustrophobic. I start to hyperventilate and then everybody around me freaks out thinking I'm dying, but I'm not. So the only place I can go is the market for groceries, so I just cook.
Highly recommend Headley and Bennett's masks.
I'll look it up.
They don't make me panic. Everyone, all the other ones do.
Yeah. I'm not against it. I struggle. But yeah, groceries.
Get it.
Groceries is basically the only place I can go right now.
Heard. Well, hello from the Pegboard Kitchen. Goodbye, Pegboard Kitchen. It was good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Bye.